Hello, World 2 students. Let's talk today about imperialism in India, British control of India. So imperialism in India begins with the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama. We talked about him in the Age of Exploration, and he opened up. Remember, the Portuguese were the ones who opened up the trade route, soon followed by other Europeans. At the time, the Mughal Empire was in charge of India. Remember, these are the guys who built the Taj Mahal. So the Mughal Empire was ruling India in the 1400s. However, as the trade increased, by the 1700s, the Mughal Empire is in decline. And as a result of that, you're going to have Hindus and Muslims begin fighting. And the Europeans are going to take advantage of this fighting to gain more control of the Indian trade and eventually more control of India. So the two powers that were fighting for, the two major European powers fighting for control of in India were the British and the French, with a special emphasis on the British East India Company. And in this fight, it is going to be the British East India Company that is going to win. And what you're going to have is you're going to have a unique situation where it's not the British government, but a private company that is going to be controlling India. By the 1700s, by the late 1700s, France will be removed from the Indian trade, and the British will be in control of it. And remember, when I say the British, we're meaning the British East India Company. One of the ways that they did that is they controlled the foreign trade and then used the armies to control. So let's talk about these armies. One of the things the British East India Company did was they employed sepoys. Sepoys are Indian soldiers who served in, for our sakes, the British Army. They used these sepoys to gain control, not just economic, but political control of India. However, at the same time they're doing this, they are Christianizing they're trying to bring Christianity to the Indians. And the British East India Company had free reign, but the Sepoy Rebellion, where they're rebelling against this discrimination that they feel, there's economic hardships for the Indians. They're facing discrimination because, remember, this is the time where the Europeans feel it's their duty to civilize, and to be civilized is to be Christian. So the sepoys are upset about that. But the other thing that is happening is the British bullets, the British got a new gun. You would have to rip open the cartridge paper with your mouth. And the British thought, the sepoys believed that they were greasing these bullets with beef or pork fat, which are against both religions' beliefs. Beef is not to be touched by Hindus. Pork is not to be touched by Muslims. So again, they felt this is discrimination. So you had a very violent revolt. In 1858, the British government is going to put down this revolt. So the Sepoy Rebellion, like we said, was the time where the sepoys revolted and many Indians got in support of it. But it is a rebellion and the British will put it down. Okay? By 1858, the uprising is over. At this point, it is the East India Company is no longer in charge of India. It is the British government that will be appointing the rulers of India. So you have direct rule over India by the British. They will be controlling their local laws and policies. And this is the period known as the Raj, when you have direct rule by Britain. Okay, so you will have a viceroy appointed not by the British East India Company, but now by the British government. And you can see this because the British ruler, the monarch, in this case Queen Victoria, was known as the Emperor or Empress of India. Okay, India became the jewel of the crown in the British Empire because, remember, India became very, very important as a vital source of raw materials and markets for Britain. In fact, India was so valuable that the British built the Suez Canal, linking the Red Sea with the Mediterranean Sea, as a way to shorten the trip between Britain and India. So during this age, this is where you get a westernization in India. Western culture is encouraged in dress, in speak, in language. Again, this idea of civilizing, they wanted the Indians to adapt European ways. In fact, schooling was done following a British learning. If you went to schools in India, you were expected to wear Western dress. The British are also making major infrastructure changes. For example, just as they did in Africa, they're building railroads, telephones, electricity, telegraphs, with the idea that we're going to put these, while they help India, they also help the British maintain control. On top of this, they're making social changes. They're also making improvements in sanitation, sewer systems, hospitals. India is going to have some of the largest cities. But remember, the main reason that Britain believed India existed was to make Britain stronger. So they're supplying the raw materials to the factories. They're not encouraging local industries. One of the big things is they're encouraging Indians to grow cash crops, for example, cotton instead of food. And this is a period of time under British rule where you will see famines occur in India. Now, you're going to get upper class in India that is going to be modeled with Western dress, and they're counted on to help India. But what's going to happen, especially as the 1800s progress, is you're going to get Indian nationalism develop. And this Indian nationalism is going to come in the form of opposition. And you're going to get two groups form. You're going to get the Indian National Congress, which is going to be majority Hindu, and they're going to be calling for an end of Indian rule. And you're also going to get the Muslim League. The Muslim League is going to be your Muslim population of India, and they're going to fight for not only Indian independence, but they're also going to see, they want Muslims protected because they're the minority in India with the formation of Pakistan. The leader of the Muslim League is going to be Jinnah. In India, your Indian National Congress, some of your famous leaders that come out of there are Gandhi and Nehru. And they're going to use many different methods to stop British rule in India, as we can see. So they're going to use things such as strikes, boycotts, demonstrations. Gandhi's going to develop nonviolent civic disobedience. This idea that you don't obey unjust laws. And this movement is going to help lead to independence. And in 1947, India will get independence, but it will be split into the modern day countries of India and Pakistan. In that region of the world, India and Pakistan, you still will have the Hindu-Muslim conflict, because one of the ways that the British maintained control was to keep those two groups divided, because one of the reasons the Sepoy Rebellion failed was the Hindus and Muslims could not unite. Today you do, as we can see, that's still that link with the Muslim and Hindus still not getting along in this area of the world.